Alien Romulus has some big things going on beyond what's shown in the trailer. Some contentious things too. So as a big fan of the franchise, I just wanted to get into some of the nitty gritty, get into some of the details, and give you my own thoughts about it. So, spoiler review, here we go.
Are you sure you want to do this?
So right off the bat, a link is made between Romulus and the first Alien movie. The scene opens up, we see a kind of scavenger ship approaching the wreckage of the Nostromo, and they pull the cocooned body. It's like the alien that has somehow survived being blasted from the engine of the Narcissus, the shuttle, in Alien, is picked up by a salvage crew, and it's surrounded in some kind of hard casing, some kind of cocoon. They take it back to a research station, cut the outer layer off, and then we see the alien. So it is the alien from the first movie that's been brought back to Romulus. That's what sets off this whole event. We're next shown the mining colony where our characters are residing. It's a dreary, awful place, but it looks pretty cool because it's got a huge ring system around the planet. The mining colony does look pretty cool with it. It adds some visual flair, but more than that, it comes into play toward the end of the movie, where the whole resolution happens. So that is one thing about Romulus that I liked. There are a lot of things that are set up or introduced that come into play later. So there's a lot of setup and payoff, which is satisfying to see. Anyway, the mining colony is just a completely depressing place. It's rainy, it's dark, it's dirty. It's like you see, what was it, Hadley's Hope on Aliens? That mining settlement there. It's grungy and dirty like that, but it's fully populated, which is pretty cool to see now. We get to see the people milling around, and there's a scene where we're introduced to Rain, played by Kaylee Spaney, and her brother, played by David Johnson. Her brother is an android. So he's shown to be kind of broken down or malfunctioning. He's telling dad jokes all the time for some reason. I guess it's because Rain's father actually found Andy, the android, and repaired him and programmed him himself. And so he programmed Andy with this directive to always do what is right for Rain, or always do what is best for Rain. So we're introduced to these two characters, and Rain goes up to Weyland-Yutani, I don't know, employment office kind of thing. And we see people queuing up. It's really depressing, like the DMV or something like that. So it turns out she's worked off all of her required time for her contract, something like 5 years worth, and she wants a travel permit to leave the planet. It seems her biggest hope is to leave this planet and go to another one. I forget the name. I think it's Ivega or something like that, where she can see the sunrise, because here apparently it's always cloudy, always cloud cover, never see the sun. It's just completely awful all the time. So she's worked off her time with the company, her required time. She wants a travel permit, which it seems only Weyland-Yutani can issue. So we're shown just how awful and controlling Weyland-Yutani really is, as if we didn't know, but it's kind of interesting to see it here. It's very bureaucratic. They tack on about 4 or 5 extra years to her contract just because they're short on workers. So the lady denies her request, and it seems like Rain has no recourse, and she's just forced into this indentured servitude. We get this really interesting insight into the mining colonies, what it must be like, what the people on Hadley's Hope might have experienced, you know, that kind of environmental expansion, which I found to be quite well done in this movie and interesting in expanding the already existing lore of the Alien and Aliens movies. Here we start to get a bunch of callbacks to Alien and Aliens, and it is kind of one too many. Like, you see the rooster dipper thing from Alien, you get the kind of floor lighting and the mist from the egg chamber from the first Alien movie, you know, when Kane is exploring the derelict ship. That's shown as well. It isn't shown exactly like that, but there is a similar scene with, you know, with the exact same kind of blue lighting and mist, and you know what it's getting at. You see the computer terminals, the CRT monitors, that kind of retro futuristic feel from the original movie. You get most of the sound effects from those from Alien and Aliens are present here. You get motion trackers, you get Mother, you get androids, which I'll get into a bit later. You get a couple lines as well from the original film, like "Get away from her, you bitch."
Get away from her, you bitch!
This time is said by Andy the android. It feels completely out of place. I am not sure why they really wanted to insert that line. It's just kind of cringy. I guess he learned bitch from one of the other characters, the cousin. So when he brings it back, he's using it like an insult. But we all know, where that's coming from. And there's another line at the end of the movie where Rain is saying, "Oh, and last survivor of the Nostromo signing off."
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.
Except it's not the Nostromo, it's the mining shuttle cargo hauler thing. I forget the name of it. But there are so many callbacks to Alien and Aliens. It's clear that the writers or creator or Fede Alvarez or whoever absolutely knows and loves the source material, but it felt a bit heavy-handed at times. Gets a bit distracting. I liked some of the callbacks, but sometimes it was just too much. There are so many similarities, not just to Alien and Aliens, but to the other movies, the comic books, the games, the novels from the expanded universe. There are all sorts of ideas and concepts that are taken from that material and put into Romulus, which I thought was awesome. The respect paid to the Alien universe, not just the first two movies, which is where the overwhelming amount of material is taken from or inspired by, but the whole Alien universe, like the atmosphere, is so heavy and oppressive, and it seems like it's a combination of all of the movies or comic books or games, not just Alien and Aliens. For example, Romulus Station. So Romulus Station is actually kind of two parts. So one half is Romulus and one half is Remus, and that makes up the whole station where most of the movie takes place. It's very similar to Sevastopol Station from Alien Isolation. If anyone's played that game, the feeling is very similar. They have announcements echoing through the hallways. I found to be very similar to how they do it in Sevastopol Station. I mean, it's all here in this movie. You get the feeling right off the bat, just this amalgamation of everything Alien coming together. You have ideas like the research station, which Romulus is. It's featured in umpteen other comics, Alien comics, and as well as Alien Resurrection, except here it's done better, in my opinion. So all these ideas are coming together to form this unified vision of the Alien universe, which I thought was pretty awesome. The way they pulled it off felt great. The atmosphere was fantastic. The environments looked really, really good. Then we get to the characters. So we have Rain and Andy, the two main characters for sure, and the heart of the movie. Rain, Kaylee Spaney does a fine job, I thought. Much better than I expected, actually. In the trailer, they make her out to be just a Sigourney Weaver wannabe, but she actually pulls it off quite well. She can bring a range of emotion as it's needed. She's not just a Ripley clone in terms of behavior, though the movie does try hard to make her into one toward the end. That scene where she comes out holding the pulse rifle. It's almost a shot-for-shot recreation of that scene in Alien. And then they have her repeating the line of, "I'm last survivor of the Nostromo," I forget the name, signing off. They really try to push in that direction towards the end of the movie, but for the most part, she had her own character, her own identity. She didn't act like Ripley most of the time. And so I thought she did a pretty good job at pulling off the character. So her parents, is established early on, have died from some kind of disease on the mining colony. And that's kind of a theme that goes throughout the movie, that people are getting sick working on these mining colonies. And that kind of acts like an impetus for some of the research that they're doing on Romulus. I'll get into it a bit later. So her parents are dead early on, and Andy, her brother, is pretty much the only remaining piece of her father or family that she has left. So that's why she's so protective of him. It's well done, and you understand right away the importance of this faulty android to her and why she does what she does later. So we have Andy, played by David Johnson, and he is a fantastic actor. I really wasn't expecting much out of him either, out of his character. When you first see him, he's kind of a bumbling idiot almost. And man, when he switches hard. And he's like the most cold, calculating company man, and he pulls it off to such an unbelievable extent. I was blown away. I didn't expect much from him, really, and he was the best character in the film for me. For the other characters, we've got one girl who's the friend of Rain, and then her brother, who it's implied that he has kind of a thing for Rain. It's not really explored very much at all, just hinted at. He's made out to be kind of like a capable, soldiery type of guy, upstanding type of guy. Sadly, his character was kind of wasted, though. Then we've got the asshole cousin, who is the most unlikable character in the whole movie. He's just rude. He's a dick. He hates androids. We're told in the movie that part of the reason why he hates androids, and he's just picking on Andy for most of the film, to be honest. He's just being a complete asshole to this android. But it turns out that his mother died because of a decision an android made before, so he's got a bone to pick. It makes sense, but he's not a likable character at all, and you're kind of happy when he's killed. Then you have, I don't even remember her name, an Asian girl with a shaved head. She's basically the pilot, or kind of techie type of person. Totally flat. We hardly know anything about her. She's kind of an asshole too, I felt. And yeah, she's the first to die. So the character motivations are pretty good. They make sense. Basically, these kids want to escape the planet. They're sick of this colonial life, this mining colony life. They're generational, right? So they are already born on this planet to mining workers, and their parents have died, it seems. I'm not sure if all of them have, but it seems like it. From all this sickness and disease that's going around, they want off this planet. They want to go to the same planet Rain does, because it's supposed to be a great place where you can see the sunrise. Their motivation is good. It all makes sense. But then we get to the most unbelievable part of the movie, which almost killed it for me right from the beginning. So Weyland-Yutani is shown to be this completely overbearing, oppressive entity in complete control of not just the planet, but the lives of everybody on it, everything around it. You can't get a travel permit without their permission. They control everything. But somehow these young people have access to a cargo loader. Not only do they have access to a cargo loader, they can get in it and fly it whenever they want. There's no control put on there or by Weyland-Yutani. There's no timing when they're not allowed to use it. They just kind of sneak off and fly up with it into orbit. And the reason they want to do that is because they have detected this space station, Romulus, drifting above the planet, coming close to the orbit. Now, Weyland-Yutani, you're trying to tell me that Weyland-Yutani, that is so in control of everything going on this planet, has not detected this Romulus station drifting nearby the orbit, and we're talking, it's not far away at all. It's like the distance of the International Space Station, it looks like, when they get up there. So they haven't detected this. The kids' idea is to go up because they need cryopods for the journey to this other planet. It's going to take 9 years, apparently. So they need to get cryopods to travel all the way to the planet. They think that there will be equipment in cryopods on Romulus Station because it's the Weyland-Yutani facility. They don't know where it came from, just that it's drifting close to them. So Weyland-Yutani Company, the research station, the company that the research station belongs to, and the planet, mining colony planet, owned by Weyland-Yutani, can't detect this thing drifting nearby, but these kids can pick it up, and not just pick it up, go into orbit, sneak onto the station, and other people aren't going up to do the same, and Weyland-Yutani isn't sending salvage ships of their own to investigate, and it's not brought up ever again. about that. It just, the kids just kind of sneak on and then things start to happen. There's no consequence for it. It's like all the people on the planet are completely oblivious except for this group. And that part almost took me out of the movie completely. Everything else that went on after it was great, and I was entertained sufficiently enough. But man, every time I watch that movie, I think that part is going to bug me. It's just like this logical loophole, this kind of, or I guess plot hole. It just doesn't make sense at all. It bugged me a lot, and it's never addressed. But that aside, they get onto the station. Once they're on the station, we have some pretty cool scenes. There's an expansion of tech and ideas from the original movies. So for one thing is the cryopods, but now you need cryo fuel. When they go to salvage the cryopods, which they find, the brother, the cousin, and Andy go on to Romulus by themselves, and the girls are on the cargo hauler. They bring Andy along because they think he'll have the necessary access that will open up the station. It's just like a trigger to his fingerprint, and it turns out that he does. So they're able to get onto the station using Andy's level of access because he was a Weyland-Yutani android before. And apparently it just works. So once they're on the station and they do find the cryopods, they realize they need more cryo fuel. It's something that wasn't really brought up in other Aliens movies, and I don't remember reading about it in other books. It might have been there, but it's kind of a cool concept, and it drives the story forward and actually leads to the whole crisis that wakes the aliens up, which I quite liked. It does raise some questions. So in Aliens, Ripley is drifting in space for like 57 years.
How long? Please.
57 years.
So did she have 57 years worth of cryo fuel? I don't think so. But it's kind of a cool concept. I can roll with it and kind of ignore the lore inconsistencies because it's used in an interesting way in this movie that drives the story forward. You get to see a smart gun hybrid later on. So that's another expansion of the tech. It's like basically like a pulse rifle with a little attachment as kind of like an aim assist thing that just jerks your arms around and aims you in the direction of a target. It's a cool idea. I really liked it, actually. It's like a in between, of a smart gun that we see in Aliens and the normal pulse rifle. Then we get to see a cocoon for the juvenile alien, which I'm not sure if I liked or not. It kind of messes with the alien life cycle that I had established in my head for so many years. I always thought that the aliens kind of shed their skin as they're growing, getting larger, kind of like, certain insects will do, or a snake or something like that. It just kind of will shed the outer layer as it grows. Here we see the baby alien, the chest burster, and then the next time we see it, it's in this sort of like cocoon thing stuck to the wall. It looks like a vagina stuck to a wall, basically. It's very biological, right? It's very soft and squishy and slimy and looks disgusting. And the cousin guy has like a electroshock rod. He jams in there and tries to kill the alien. Seems like he's done it. Acid blood is dripping out. But the alien just kills him in the end anyway. But the interesting thing about it is that it's a further evolution of the alien life cycle. I don't know if I completely like it. It kind of implies that there's a very vulnerable period where the alien is just kind of like hanging out, attached to something and just growing larger and larger. I had always thought that aliens were running around and feeding on things, although it doesn't really make sense from the movies. Like in Alien, we see it when it's a chest burster. It just sheds its skin and it's already a full-grown adult. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense that much. I'm not sure if I liked it, but it was a cool visual, for sure. So a good thing about this movie is that the story is coherent and pretty much everything that's introduced has a purpose. All the setup and payoff is done very well. So when they first get on the station, it's shown that there are issues with the artificial gravity. it's turning on and off, and the guys are kind of thrown up and down. It's not just a cool scene and a cool visual, but it's used later on in the story as a way to, as a resolution when they're being attacked by aliens, and Rain shuts off the artificial gravity so that the acid blood doesn't splash on the floor and burn a hole through the hull into space. So it's a cool idea. It's also a cool visual. It's used really well. I talked about the little electroprod. The cousin guy finds that, and he's teasing Andy with it, threatening to shock him. But then it comes into play later when he uses it against the alien, and we see just how tough an alien is, a xenomorph is, when it's not really that effective against it. And then the cryofuel. So the cryofuel, they go into a room. The brother, the cousin dude, and Andy, they go into this room where all the cryofuel is. They remove a rod, and that's what triggers the entire crisis. So the station goes into lockdown mode. They're trapped in this sort of laboratory room. When the lockdown is triggered, Andy no longer has the access level to open the door from the lockdown. It's out of his range now. And things are warming up, right? Because you've taken out the cryofuel, the room starts heating up, the station starts heating up, and these specimens, facehugger specimens that are kind of like shrink wrapped, start to warm up and basically drop down into the water. The room starts filling up with water. Everything's melting. So these guys are stuck in this room. They were the ones who started the crisis in the first place, and it's all in search of this cryofuel. So it's a pretty cool idea. It was done well. It made sense for the story. Didn't feel arbitrary. So out of the girls back on the ship, the sister is sick and throwing up because it turns out that she's pregnant. Rain and the pilot woman go onto the station to help them out. Rain reasons out that they've seen this android body before when the guys were walking by. There's a half melted android body with a hole in the floor from obviously alien blood where it's burned through. So Rain, remembering the body of the android that's half burned on the way in, half melted, she goes to get the chip from it. And in this movie, it's done by they slide out part of the neck or by the head, and you can take this little chip out, and that contains all sorts of codes and directives, and this is how androids are kind of programmed, I guess, in this movie. It's a cool little idea. It's almost like, putting an isolinear chip in a computer or something like that, or messing around with Data's programming, putting an emotion chip on Data, something like that.
Data, I think the chip is working.
Oh, yes! I hate this! It is revolting!
More?
Please.
So they take the chip out from that android. They manage to get it to Andy. There's a small opening in the doorway they can reach back and forth through. And when Andy puts that chip in, he's rebooting. This is when the facehuggers are really waking up. They're starting to swim through the water and attack the cousin and the brother. And Andy's just kind of there, his eyes rolled in the back of his head, and he's rebooting. When he reboots, he is not the same Andy. And like I said before, the actor does such a fantastic job of communicating this. He's like a stone cold company man now, and I love it. He's so calculating, logical. He's not acting weird. He's not bumbling anymore. He speaks clearly and confidently. It's just pulled off so well. So he has access codes available. He opens the door. They escape out of that lab area, and a facehugger shoots through at the last moment and attaches itself to the pilot woman's face, right? Like you see in the trailer, wraps around her head. So they're panicking. They don't know what to do. And someone gets the idea, I think Rain or someone, hey, that android who is there, maybe we can reactivate him. He might know what's going on. They try taking the facehugger off of the pilot woman. Obviously, it tightens up just like the other movies. And, it's almost going to kill her. So let's consult the other android we saw. Maybe we can power him on and learn how to deal with this situation. Maybe he has some insight. So they go to the android, roll him over, and then we have the first of a couple very contentious parts of this movie. It turns out that the android is Ash. Well, not really Ash. It's an android named Rook in this movie, but it is the Ash model.
It's a robot. Ash is a goddamn robot.
And it is exactly Ash's face. And they've taken it, it seems like they've done a deep fake from Alien, the original movie, from him at that age, and kind of like superimposed it over this android's face, this actor's face, whoever's doing the android. It is Uncanny Valley, like, to the max. It doesn't look good. The CGI is quite bad on this, which is unfortunate because I liked the idea, actually. I liked the idea of that Ash model. I know some people don't like that idea at all and saying it's too much of a callback to the original film, but I'm okay with it. It's already established in Aliens lore that many android models have the same exact look and make.
I'm shocked. Was it an older model?
Yeah, the Hyperdyne system's 128.2.
Well, that explains it, and the A2s always were a bit twitchy.
I'm totally fine with that, and I kind of like that Ash is back in the movie. It turns out he is like a pivotal character. He becomes like the main antagonist. So if you feel like that's too much of a leap, too much of a callback, too desperate to have old characters coming back from other movies, and if you see it in a negative light like that, you might not like this movie or that part at all, because it is a huge part of the movie. For me, I liked it. I thought it was cool, but the CGI, the deep faking just was not very good. He looked like Grand Moff Tarkin from Rogue One, that level. And he's in the movie a lot, so you see it a lot. It's a cool reveal. Some people will like it, some people won't. So we get the chest bursting scene. It's done very well. We get to see more of it than we did before. Like, there's no shirt covering up what's going on anymore. Like, she's got a low-cut shirt on. And so you can see the skin breaking, the blood. It's pretty gruesome. It's done really well. The alien, the chest burster, hangs out a little longer than I expected it to. He kind of looks tired out. He's slumped over. And Alien, when it pops out, he gets out of there pretty quickly. In this one, it hangs around a lot longer. The sister's just horrified. In the course of this, while the chest burster is coming out, the pilot lady, I think, kicks a throttle or something like that, one of the engine throttles. So the cargo hauler, it's actually a pretty cool scene. It starts swinging around Romulus station, and it's getting closer and closer to it. It eventually smashes into it, lodges itself in a cargo bay, and there's explosions all around and chaos basically everywhere. And as a result of this, the station is knocked further from its orbit. And whereas before they had like 36 hours, I think, to get in, salvage the cryopods, and leave before the orbit decayed and it hit the rings around the planet. After that explosion and the orbital destabilization, Romulus is now going to hit the rings in about 40 minutes. So their time frame has been drastically shortened. In good alien tradition, one disaster goes from bad to worse. It's a great visual scene. Felt really, impactful and explosive. And so the next threat that they really have to deal with are facehuggers. And here you see a swarm of facehuggers. It reminds me of Alien Berserker. Fantastic comic. I love it a lot. The guy with the Max suit, and they flush him with all these drugs and just kind of let him go in a colony. It's this one man killing robot machine thing. It's like a prisoner who's trapped in this big mechanized suit. It's an awesome concept and an awesome comic. I love it. And especially that cover. Just totally reminds me of what's going on in this movie. But at the same time, a lot of that tension, like I said in my spoiler-free review, and others have spoken about it too, the level of tension you get from a swarm of facehuggers throwing themselves at the characters doesn't compare to that scene in Aliens with Ripley and Newt trapped in the room because of Burke, right? You just don't feel the same immediacy to it, which is kind of sad, but it's just a result of throwing more things at the screen. It looks visually cool, but you're not feeling the same level of tension. In terms of the xenomorphs, they did not feel as aggressive as in Aliens at all. They didn't feel as scary or threatening as in Alien, which was a little sad. The xenomorphs, the adult versions of them, felt undercooked a little bit. They just weren't that aggressive. It seemed like there was this part where the characters get to a hive like type structure that the aliens have been creating inside of Romulus. It's a corridor, you got all your resin, secreted resin, whatever that they've built up. And the aliens are just kind of there and watching as our characters advance through it. They're kind of hissing at them and not really attacking. They're not really aggressive. And I was hoping for more of that threat level, that aggression. You just don't really get it that much. The aliens do kill people. They kill the brother character. It's a pretty cool kill too. They hoist him up, up into a couple stories high, and he's hanging there, and aliens are approaching from all around, and they kill him. It's a cool visual. Just did that character dirty. I mean, he's supposed to be the guy who knows anything about guns there or weapons, and he's taken out. He doesn't get to fire a shot. I felt sorry for him. He could have been a cool character, but yeah, he was kind of a nobody in the end. So at one point, the sister is captured by aliens, and they cocoon her up, ready to get a face hugger. They track her down. The brother, Andy, and Rain manage to find the sister strung up, but no facehugger has attached itself to her yet. It's shown that the sister is badly wounded, and they're not sure what they can do to help her out. Then we get the quest for the black goo.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
This is one of the most contentious parts of this movie, by far, which some people seem to either not mind that much or outright hate, because it means that Prometheus is now a part of this movie universe. So Ash tells them about this black goo substance that he's extracted from the aliens' DNA during their experimentation. It's wrapped into the story in a believable way because all these colonists are getting sick, right? On Weyland-Yutani, mining colonies and planets throughout the system. There's all sorts of disease and sickness. Their workers aren't lasting very long. So Rook says that he's extracted this from the alien in an effort to experiment on living creatures and strengthen them, basically fight and kill diseases. We're shown a little lab rat. There's a video of a lab rat where it's crushed under high gravity after being injected with this extracted black goo DNA soup. Its bones basically can reconstruct and it's fine. And it seems to be, doing all right, totally healthy. The camera pans away later. We see that rat in the cage, and it's mutated and burst open into this horrifying creature mutant thing. So we know something bad's going to happen. But for those people who really hate it or don't mind it that much, I mean, I didn't like it, but I think I'm in the I don't mind that much camp. I'm not a huge fan of Prometheus, and especially not the thought that aliens were created by an android on some planet like in Alien Covenant. It's a stupid idea. I hate it. But here the idea is that the goo was extracted from the aliens somehow, which I can buy more easily. Yes, it's still being linked in with Prometheus, but the way that they acquired it, it wasn't like a bioweapon just there. It was extracted through experimentation, which is something we've seen in the comics many times, this kind of idea. You even have like Xenozip or the Royal Jelly, like in the Colonial Marines comics, and other substances that have been extracted from the aliens in research labs or found their way onto the black market. In those comics, you even have a group of people who are like alien hybrids and their faces are all messed up. And it's because they've kind of been combined with alien DNA. Like, let's be honest, experimentation and mad scientists combining humans with alien DNA is a staple of the alien universe. I see the black goo in this movie as another instance of that. I mean, I can look at it as an idea, as an interesting idea with some merit, despite the linkage to the movie ideas that I don't really like in Prometheus and Covenant. But one strength the movie has going for it is the consequences of using it and what happens, and they are awesomely horrifying. Okay, this is almost the best part of the movie for me, when that black goo is put to its full potential, as I'll get into in a little bit here. So a whole bunch of aliens are blocking Rain and the sister and Andy from the exit. They have to get through this corridor to an elevator up out to their ship. But they can't fire their weapons, because if they shoot the aliens, the acid blood will drip through the floor. They're very close, I guess, to the outer hull in this area, and it could eat its way through and then vent them all into space and they'd all die. So Rain has the clever idea to use the company chip from Andy to deactivate the gravity on the entire station, which they do. The aliens are all floating around, and then she starts taking them out one by one with this aim assist pulse rifle. It's a pretty cool looking scene, but what follows is even better, because now you have the acid blood floating around weightless everywhere, and they have to try to get through that corridor, float their way from one end to the other while avoiding this acid blood. It's a really cool looking scene. It's quite creative and innovative. It's just a little sad that the acid blood is now scarier than the aliens themselves, than what they were shown just before. This scene was still pretty clever and well done. It's definitely a highlight of the movie, I thought. Meanwhile, aboard the cargo hauler, the sister is injected herself with the black goo. It's not really shown why she thought that's a good idea. She's just kind of holding her midsection for a bit. It looks like she's worried about her baby because she's kind of wounded in that area, and she decides to inject herself with the goo. Can't remember if Rook talks her into it. I think he does. So Rain and Andy make it back to the cargo hauler. Rain helps the sister into her cryopod. Rain is kind of doing the whatever last flight check for the ship, making sure everything's good to go. And when she comes back to the cryopod, she finds it empty. It's open and it's bloody. And on the ground is the sister. And this leads to one of my favorite parts of the movie. Yes, it's related to the black goo. Yes, it's related to Prometheus. But this was the most twisted, horrifying thing I've seen in a movie in a long time, and something I think this movie desperately needed. Don't get me wrong, the aliens are creepy and scary, but we've seen them so many times before. We've seen this kind of thing before. We've seen colonial marines blasting away drones and warriors, since 1986. The aliens aren't as threatening as they once were. So we have this new creature on the scene. We get this totally fucked up birthing scene where the sister's belly is really big. She's on the ground giving birth to something, and out comes this kind of like pod-shaped thing. It's already got acid on it. It's starting to eat its way through the floor. It's really fleshy and organic looking, kind of similar to that fleshy cocoon thing we saw from earlier that the alien was kind of growing in. Something similar to that. It burns its way through to the cargo area and the cargo hauler. It lands on a bunch of mineral dust or something like that. We see it opening up and something's coming out of it. And in a very short amount of time, this thing has turned into one of the most horrific, creepiest looking creature designs I've seen in a long time. All right, it's basically an engineer alien hybrid. His face looks like one of those engineers from Prometheus that a lot of people really hate that they've included that in this movie. But the way they've done it, it's absolutely horrifying. It's one of the most unsettling creature designs I've seen in a while, and way better than the hybrid we got in Resurrection. This is much, much better than that. It's a very similar scene in which you have a kind of weird alien hybrid going toward its mommy, but here it feels scary and creepy and horrifying. In Resurrection, it was kind of weird and I don't know, kind of had these big eyes, like they try to make it cute at some point. But this is what I mean when I said I could accept the black goo because it leads to this. It leads to an awesome scene, a badly needed scene in this movie to switch it up and give us something new other than the normal xenomorphs. It was the only scene in the whole movie where I actually felt uneasy. We've seen so many aliens by now, they don't really scare you anymore. Yes, they're awesome. They're easily one of the most iconic and enduring creature designs ever made, but they don't prompt uneasiness. Not anymore, really. This engineer hybrid does. It's walking on all fours at first, it's elongated, the face is like an engineer's, but with a more sadistic looking mouth and a kind of dead-eye stare. So it's crawling through the corridor and it's going toward Andy, who's standing by the sister, who's still laying on the ground, absolutely horrified and traumatized. And in one swoop, boom, it slashes Andy's neck and he's done. He's out of the action. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about titties.
This is getting too silly.
Quite agree, quite agree. Silly, silly, silly. Right, get on with it. Get on with it.
Bear with me here. So the sister is laying on the ground and she's looking at her breasts. She sticks a hand down her shirt like this and brings her hand out, and it comes away with all this goo, this black slimy stuff. And it's implied that she is producing milk or nutrients for this fucked up alien baby that she gave birth to, who's like 8 feet tall with an alien tail, this weird, evil demon looking face. And he's walking toward her like he's coming toward Mummy to get some milk. This is what is implied. They don't follow through completely with it. Now, I'm not asking for a bunch of nudity and going full out hardcore like that, but they kind of dodge it a little bit. So he opens his mouth and there's this long tongue with like kind of a proboscis sucker type end. He's leaning down toward the sister. We see Rain come up behind it. And in the next scene, all we see is that this alien baby thing is holding the sister up. He lifts his head up, and it looks like he's just killed her, like any other creature, like any other alien or monster. And so that's what I felt like they kind of pulled short of. They could have made it a lot more suggestive as to what was actually going on, kind of dragged it out, made it more horrific and terrible. And I know it's really it's like terrifying and disgusting shit. But it was like, it seemed like they were going there, that direction. And then the next scene, she's just dead. So, boy, I felt like they kind of missed an opportunity at really amping up the horror element, the terror element, the just what the fuck element. They didn't have to show much more. They could have shown it from behind, but had her, struggling and trying to fight it off a little bit, something like that. But no, the next scene, she's dead, and that's it. He drops the body and turns on Rain. So we do get this pretty epic fight scene between Rain and the creature. She eventually defeats it by dropping the cargo section, releasing the cargo section from the ship, and she's tethered to the actual ship, whereas the creature drops down and is destroyed in the ring. I should add that while this is going on, Romulus has already hit the ring, and it's like disintegrating. There's flames and it's being ripped apart, shredded apart by all the ice and rocks and whatever. And this is happening after our characters have already escaped on the cargo ship. So the hybrid is dead, smashed into the rings of the planet and killed. And Rook is remote piloting the cargo hauler back down to the planet so that he can have the black goo delivered to the company, which is his primary objective. It seems way too easy, but basically Rain just shuts off the autopilot, the remote pilot, and turns it to manual, takes the ship, and heads off in her own direction. She's got the cryo fuel now, she's got the cryopods, and she puts Andy into a cryopod, says that she'll do her best to fix him. She goes into a cryopod herself, sets course for that new planet I forget the name of, and goes to sleep with a little signing off tagline straight out of Alien. It's the exact same line, just with a different ship name, signing off. And that's it. The movie leaves itself completely open for further adventures of Rain and Andy, if they so wish, or it can just be a one and done type of deal. I suppose that'll depend on how well the movie performs in the box office. In typical Alien fashion, you have one resolution and then you have another resolution, another ending, right? It happened in Alien, escaping the ship, and then oops, the alien is on board the shuttle with you. It happened in Aliens. We escaped the facility going nuclear, but whoops, the Queen's stowed away on board. It's happened here as well. It didn't feel that out of place, to be honest. The second ending, I liked it. I thought it was one of the best parts of the movie because they were being inventive, being creative, going their own direction. All the other homage to Alien and Aliens was fantastic, don't get me wrong. But for me, this was the best stuff in the movie when they actually innovated and brought their own touch to it, because it was done in a very interesting, creepy, horrific way, which is exactly what the movie needed and exactly what I was looking for as a fan. It didn't feel too out of place, except for the linkage to Prometheus. And if you can't buy that part of the movie, you're going to have a tough time liking it, because that's where the movie leads to. It links everything together. Yeah, and if you think Prometheus and Covenant are just the bastard stepchildren that should stay hidden away forever and never see the light of day again, hate to break it to you, but they linked it together. I just thought they did it in a decent way. I can overlook my distaste for Prometheus or the ideas in Prometheus. It was a fantastic looking movie, just the story execution wasn't really there. In this movie, the story execution was there because it was a simple setup, a simple story. It was basically, like I said before, my spoiler-free review, it was an expanded universe story. It's basically like if you picked up a comic and said, okay, I just want another Alien story, a generic kind of adventure with different characters and some more, some other different situations, and we know what's going to happen. People are going to get killed. Some aliens are going to die. There's going to be a hero. This is that movie. Overall, I thought it was really good, though. It's probably my third favorite Alien movie out of all of them. I mean, Aliens and Alien are my two favorite, of course, by far. These things are masterpieces. Aliens might be my favorite above Alien, just a little bit, but it's really hard to say because they're so different. Alien is like a horror movie in space, and Aliens is like an action sci-fi movie in space, and they're both fantastic. This movie, Alien Romulus, though, I think it comes in third place. It does such a good job of establishing the atmosphere, something very similar to the first two. It's still its own identity. It may have called back a little too much, one too many Easter eggs and things like that. But I think this movie is better than Resurrection. It's like a superior version of Resurrection, just without all the experimental section of it kind of cut out. We just kind of get to the consequences part of it. This movie is better than Alien 3, in my opinion. I thought that it did the environment, atmosphere, action, look, the aliens, everything so well. Is it a perfect movie? No, not at all. It has its issues. It could be better, absolutely. But what it presents here, I think, is an excellent entry into the franchise, an excellent return to form for Aliens movies. And it felt like an Alien movie, and that's pretty much all I wanted, all I could ask for. I know it was never going to reach the heights of Alien and Aliens.
Let's rock!
But what we got was a lot better than what we've gotten before. I mean, it's far better than Prometheus and Alien Covenant, story-wise, for sure. And atmosphere and feeling and tone, all of that. And it was far better than those Alien versus Predator pieces of shit, which I'm still mad about to this day. I don't even want to think about them. Yeah.
Give me my keys. We can find them in 30 minutes or less, asshole.
I mean, if we ever get anything similar to the comic, the main comic story with Machiko in it, I'll be overjoyed, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. I just want predators and aliens fighting each other in the future, not on Earth, right? Set it on some planet somewhere. Let's get the whole alien, vibe and swing, all the lore as it is now, or as it's presented in Romulus even, and get the predators in that futuristic timeline. That would be gold. But anyway, Romulus is better than those two. The one thing, I would have liked a lot more is further development of the characters. That would have helped a lot. The effects are fantastic. The sound design is incredible. The environments are oppressive, detailed, grimy, and lived in. Everything feels exactly like an Alien movie should. All the Alien action scenes you would expect were there. They had pretty much everything except for a queen, which I didn't mind, because if they threw a queen in this one, it probably would have felt extra derivative, which it already runs the risk of. Really, Romulus was a love letter to Alien and aliens first and foremost. It adequately tied in some core elements from Prometheus and Covenant, and like or dislike Prometheus and the Black Goo, I thought Romulus did a decent job of integrating it in a way that made sense to the Alien universe and resulted in a horrifying creature amalgamation that stood out among all of the kind of now standard alien fare. Really, the movie was at its strongest when it innovated on its own ideas and it had its own identity, which sadly was kind of far and few between. I really liked the movie. I thought they did a great job of it for what it was aiming for. Fede Alvarez did an excellent job directing. I really appreciated the physical props, just the atmosphere, everything, the tone, the tenseness of it. It could have pushed a little harder on the action part from the xenomorphs themselves. And then there were some believability issues with the characters, getting off the planet so easily, Weyland Yutani not stopping them at all. There's this research station just floating right above the planet, and the company's clueless, and these kids can get on, no fuss, no muss. That, for me, was really unbelievable, but I can also kind of look past it. I can roll with it. So I knock it a couple points for those issues. Overall, I thought it was a great movie and a wonderful homage to Alien and aliens and the universe that we have come to know and love. So anyway, that's all I got for now. If you agreed with what I'm saying or disagreed, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to hear from you. And please like and subscribe. It'll help a lot. That's it for me. I'm out.
Why don't you put her in charge?